my name is Admir Zahirovic, and I'm here to educate you on the basics of nuclear reactor sites. While politicians are continuously quarreling on the control and sale of limited natural gas resources, scientists are vigorously looking for new energy options opposed to natural gas. In the last 40 to 50 years, many of these nuclear reactor sites have popped up around the world and have raised concern over the costs and effectiveness and safety of these sites. In this presentation, I hope to educate you a little bit about nuclear reactor sites by talking about their history, operation, and problems surrounding them. First, let's talk about the history of the nuclear reactor sites. After the first nuclear bombs were dropped in World War II, countries started to look at this new profound form of energy to power their country in a more positive way. The first nuclear reactor was built in Chicago and was called Chicago Pile 4. This reactor was built in 1942, so a little bit before the atomic bombs, and is part of the original Manhattan Project. As some may think, the Manhattan Project was planned just to build nuclear bombs, but it was actually building nuclear reactors as well. Now that we've talked about the history of the first reactor, let's talk about how countries were looking towards this energy and transitioning with it. The first bomb was dropped in 1945, and when the bomb was dropped, countries were looking at this and started making their own bombs as they thought about upcoming nuclear war. After a while, they started to form new techniques of creating energy using nuclear power and storing it. Not until 1956, though, were safe and reliable reactor sites starting to be made. Now that we've talked a little bit about the history, let's talk about the operation of these reactor sites. The original sites used a lot of uranium, 5.4 tons of uranium metal, and 45 tons of uranium oxide. Here we have a simple system of a nuclear reactor. The main part of the reactor is here in the reactor vessel. It has a pipeline here, and in the vessel we have the uranium oxide atoms that release a neutron that goes in and joins the nucleus of the uranium metal. That new uranium oxide becomes lighter and faster and starts to circulate through these pipes here, heating the water in the steam generator, pushing steam through this pipeline into the turbine room. This makes the water boil and makes the turbine spin, which makes electricity that's stored in the generator. The cooling tower circulates water through the turbine area and makes the water not exceed a very high temperature, while also circulating water into the steam generator. Now that we've talked about the operation of nuclear reactor sites, let's talk about some problems that come about with it. First of all, we have the costs of the nuclear reactor sites, in most cases exceeding $10 billion. And we have a map here that shows some of the nuclear reactor sites across the world. As you can tell, most of these nuclear reactor sites are along the coast. Like in the United States, it's on the east coast. The coast in Europe, it's on coastal Europe, and then you have the southern and eastern, and mostly surrounding most of Japan here. With this comes with problems if they were to malfunction or explode, as it did in Japan. It taints the water in the area around it. In Japan, the entire water area around it was tainted, and as was the land area in Chernobyl. With this comes fallout. Fallout, in other words, is when air pressure or jet streams start to push the radiation to other parts of the globe. And in Japan's case, there was threat of it going to Hawaii, and it did affect other Pacific islands, while in Chernobyl, Ukraine, it affected Western Russia. Now that we've talked about the problems, let's recap everything we have talked about. As nuclear reactor sites are a viable option to natural gas energy, they also bring up cost and safety problems. With this presentation, I talked to you about the history, operation, and problems with nuclear reactor sites. And I hope that you may now be more familiar with the situation that our government faces. Regardless if we are nearing the end of our natural gas supply or not, we as a whole population need to find a more sustainable way to make energy and to make a safer world for our future generation. Thank you.